Welcome to the Dr. Donna podcast, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 123, Home is Within You, Part 2, with special guest, Nadia Davis. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
I'm Dr. Donna. Welcome to my podcast. If you were listening last week, you heard the incredible story of Nadia Davis, who is with me. She is the author of Home is Within You. And her story is absolutely incredible. And she's back with me today. And she's going to be talking about some more about her recovery process and how she went from those really dark times to not having to live in those dark times, but knowing that they're still there, and how she lives through that every day, creating more of a positive reality for herself. So welcome back, Nadia.
Thank you.
When you talked last week about, these triggers, that's a word that people use. And so I think it would be helpful if you would talk about your triggers, like what happens, maybe even give a couple of examples of how you've been triggered and been able to move through that to get to a positive place.
In the beginning of the journey, it was physical triggers. It was physical triggers of cravings. Then it became these desperate moments of just not having any connection to a place of love. And in the desperate moments, my mind's fears and the self-judgments were on complete high drive. And so even most recently, I have had to walk through those fears and judgments. Now, I now know today that all of them are not character defects that was creating this shame and this kind of black and white thinking, that it was survival modes. And so today, when there is a person where something had happened in the past, or a year ago where there was an incident where somebody's own fears and judgments that I was able to see and observe resulted in kind of them not believing in the truth of my love. And so the way that I walked through it, and the way that I walk through it today, is there was a lot of shaming directed towards me and a lot of very, very painful things. And similar circles still have the interaction with that, as well as with my ex-husband, who I communicate with and interact with every day. When there are a look or a word or a presence of another individual today, I can sense when my mind is in this fear and judgment, and I don't ridicule my mind. I don't necessarily start with shutting it off. Yet I sit and I go back, because I always start my day in meditation in a home within me. And I ask myself, what is this core wound that's coming up? What needs to be lifted? And in those moments, the cry and the pain that's coming up in me really will begin to flow out. It's like, talk to me. And I don't I don't allow my mind to turn this fear and the judgment of why am I not strong enough? Why don't I have it all together? Thoughts like that used to come in a lot. And for people that are listening, if they are there, what I tell myself is this is my survivalist mind. It's trying to help me survive. It's trying to get me up and out. But right here, right now, I am going to sit in this middle ground and say, okay, what is the core wound that these fears and judgments are coming from? And how can I heal it more? What is it trying to tell me? And it always goes back to those original sources of pain, from abandonment, from not feeling seen, acknowledged, heard, understood, not seeing my truth. All of it does, all the current stuff today. And so if I sit in this middle ground and I allow myself to feel it all, I walk myself again, another time, through feeling that core wound. And every time I do that, another layer is lifted and I can get that much closer to this light and the warmth and the love that is still there calling me. And then I'll get deeper into that. And so, I mean, for anybody out there, the first step is not allowing our mind to turn that darkness into a shaming internally. That's our minds trying to help us survive. And we can say, okay, that's not helpful. Have a conversation with your thought, your own thought, and then sit right here in the middle. Feel the wound, just feel it all. And in that place, it can't separate you anymore from the only truth that matters, which is we are infinite beings.
Because feelings don't kill you.
But we're afraid.
And, you know, feelings don't kill you, and feelings aren't necessarily fact.
Right.
They're just feelings, right? And for every addict, and for every addict in the world, it's like it feels like those feelings are killing you. And that's why addicts tend to want to self-medicate. I got to get rid of this because it feels like it's killing me. But
in the
as
depths,
you have,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
As you've pointed out, if you just sit with it, you have communication with it. You talk to it.
Well, there's a big distinction between the feelings of pain and fears and resentments, all of those, and shame.
Shame's the big one.
All like the pains of loss and whatever it might be. Have conversations with those. The shame is what brings us in the dark. It is what isolates us. And when we have conversations with all the other feelings, shame won't enter as much. Because when we get stuck in the pain and the resentments and all of that, we then beat ourselves up for having those feelings.
Exactly. Shame on me, right?
Yeah, we're ashamed for having pain. And so in the depths of darkness, when I was brought to suicidality, it really was a shame-based thought that had me saying, you have failed, your worth isn't here anymore. You know, there's no hope and light out there. And when I began to learn again about the core wounds that was creating these fears and judgments, I was able to see the shame and say, no, you will not block me from feeling the fears and all this pain and these resentments. Just feel it all. And what is this trying to teach me? And when I started feeling it all, a beautiful desperation turns into this subtle intuition. It's not from a place of desperation anymore, but we have to allow ourselves the space that is shameless to feel it all. Feel it all. Thankfully, I was able to begin that with therapists and in Kundalini yoga, where I could finally take some deep breaths while I was feeling that pain and feel safe in my body and safe with my mind to just feel it all. So when we are feeling that, I breathe very, very deeply. And when I'm tapping into a current trigger, the first thing I do is sit and breathe so that I'm safe in my body and with my mind. And then I'll tap into it.
So you've talked a lot about shame, and I've talked a lot about shame too. That is the core, right? It's like if there's an onion, you peel off all those other feelings, and at the core of that onion is shame for everybody that's ever had trauma, because children think it's their fault, then they grow up thinking it's their fault, and the message shame on you is enormous. And when you have that shame on you coming from the world, like in public humiliation that you suffered, to be able to do that is to be able to come out of that and recognize that it's not yours. That shame doesn't belong to you. How did you return to public life? How was that for you? How'd you do it?
It's funny because it wasn't until the release date and walking into the local Barnes and Noble and seeing the book on the top shelf under the biography section that I realized, oh my goodness, I am really truly back in public life. I have not felt so much so that way in the last 7 years. I returned to public life by returning slowly within myself and within this core truth and this home, and where every day I connect to the only truth that matters. Now, that was a long process. It began truly for me, what I referenced. It began in Kundalini yoga. It began by sitting down and breathing and feeling safe in my body and with the thoughts. And in that space, I created a shield almost around me. There's a mantra, Ad Gure Name, Jugan Gure Name, Sat Gure Name, Siddhi Guru Dev Name, that is said at the beginning of every Kundalini yoga class. And it's this mantra for protection. And I repeated that literally like around my body and my mind beginning 7-8 years ago. And so when I did go out and when I did try and work for a nonprofit, having, led them and kept hitting roads of, they did this Google search and all they see is this stuff, I had to repeat that daily and just really, really ground myself in the safety, again, in my body and with my thoughts. And it was breath work and mantra that really helped me to get there. And the less and less important all of that became, then it just became non-existent in my life. And I began writing the book.
When you walked in and saw your book on the shelf, did you feel joy? Did you feel fear? Did you, what were your feelings then?
Joy. I know that it is a roadmap and it is an offering for people struggling out there that are in the darkness. I know that because people have shared that with me, but it's an offering. And so, and then it also is that mainly for my sons. I know what my daily life is with the young ones and the kind of mother I'm aiming to be. And there's no perfect day, but in living the work, I know that what is in the book, I am doing my best and trying to teach them that road. My oldest son gave me a huge embrace after he read the book. And so I have this home within me and this connection to my truth. And then I have this peace with my children. And now this book on the shelf that is like this, it was pride, but it was more like joy of, I want to give it to everybody out there struggling. Not as some pompous like way. I mean, like humbly, like I do not want anybody to suffer. And there is a way out. There really, really, truly is a way out. And what encapsulates us all is creating a space called a home within. And it sounds grand and big, but it really is that safety and calm in our mind and ourselves. And there is a starting point here in the book, no matter how much you are in the dark right now. I was in, again, treatment, jail, hospitalizations, and the depths of suicidality, including an attempt at a point in my life.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're awfully glad that didn't work, because then the book wouldn't exist, and neither would you.
But from that to this space today, that is why I was excited to see it on the shelf. It's like, there's a way out. There is a way out. And it really, truly provides a roadmap.
Mm-hmm. So were you, tell us, I'm going to go back in time now a little bit. Tell us a little bit about, how you met your husband or your ex-husband, and, how that relationship, because you've described it as you are close with him, you have a good relationship with him. How'd you meet him?
I jumped over that whole part, didn't I?
You did.
Was following in my father's footsteps. I was practicing law and representing an innocent kid, and I was fighting to save the world. And we had a Marine base closure in the school district, and I went to a political event where several of the local representatives were there. And so a few of us went up, and as the standing attorney general, he had an option as to whether to defend a law that we had worked tirelessly to get passed in the state that prioritized education over commercial use for base closures, for reuse. And I gave him my 20 seconds of a plea for the children in Santa Ana and walked away. And he ended up tracking me down and said, "Can we talk about this more?" And we had breakfast with a friend of his that had introduced us. And it went way over my head. I did not recognize the age difference. But to make a long story short, it wasn't a falling in love story. It wasn't a big ol', I'm going to marry this man. By no means was it that. I was given a drug and I was high on a first date. I got pregnant, and I had to choose later in life to rid of any resentments for any of the ways that he responded later to the public shaming of my addiction. I had a lot of things that went way back to that moment. But what happened was I made plans to raise our first son, our child, on my own. He was kind of in denial. I'm exposing it all here. It's all in the book. And was in his own fears for what would happen to him publicly. And so he ended up tracking me down again and asked me to marry him on the phone. And in my what is the best thing for our child? What is the best thing for this man who was doing good work for the state? I said yes, and my life changed overnight, and it was kind of a public scandal saving for him, I understood. He had told me he loved me, interestingly, in a short period of time. And I believe, and I know today, and I focused on this the first years of marriage, that he was trying to do the right thing, and that he fell in love completely with me and our son. And he really changed his life to make us a priority. And we were the family that he never had. Now, I say all that from a place of love, because knowing having done my own work, I'm so much better able, and have been for years, to see when he is in his kind of survival mode. Back then, I did not know that. And I just molded completely into doing everything possible to keep him happy, to keep things calm and happy. And he wanted us to travel with him everywhere. And it began a mode of living that had no self-care, no emotional intimacy, no connection with friends. I was very isolated, and he was very controlling. I say that lovingly. It was his way of managing and being the kind of employer of all. Looking back, I felt like I was working for him, basically. And again, I say this lovingly, because it was my own undone work that got me in that place. Today, things are very different, because we do not live under the same roof, and because we are divorced, and because I acknowledge it when I am maybe in a fear and had responded, and that hasn't happened in a long time. Maybe when there were issues with the children's schedule or things of that sort, I can acknowledge when my own fears come up, and I'll say that. But more importantly, I can acknowledge when he's in his mode and just really distance myself and not respond. So it took owning my own work to really get us to where we are today. I don't know what other work he has done other than allow me to leave, which was hard to do. He wouldn't really
allow you to leave the marriage?
It was extremely difficult in more ways than one. Both things that I did that were in my control, like a relapse that would create more court layers. But there were also things that I felt were not in my control because of my own sense of powerlessness and undone work from, I saw no way out of the marriage.
But you wanted out.
Oh yeah. I didn't know how to get out from, I think, day one.
So the relapse helped you get out.
Very much so.
So it sounds like you went back.
When I filed for divorce and when I got my own place.
Yeah. So one thing you learned was that relapse will get people away from you, right?
One thing I can say is that Bill has always praised the kind of mom I am. And I've said, and he to this day did not want me to divorce him. And I have said, you have to let me go. But if you're going to love me, continue to love and support me as a mom. And our focus is our children. And it's beautiful. It really, really is. There's bumps and, challenges. We just finalized the divorce several months ago. And so those are long journeys, but, there's always these things where it's his mode of that made the state so successful. He was the state treasurer too. he knows how he's going to feel secure and stable with a lot of the control of the finances and things. And I know that, but during the divorce, that came up quite a bit, and it mixed with the time with the children. And I had to walk through a lot of fears, a lot of, why are we mixing these together? And so the last 3-4 years really tapped into utilizing all those skills that I had gained that were at the core wound of wanting to give my children that home, because I didn't want them to hurt like I did. And I walked through that, and I learned really how to manage his undone work. I say that lovingly. And I'm proud of where we are today, and very happy for my children. So,
Well, thank you so much. Talking about, I could tell just by, how you were talking, that was a tough situation. But I have some other questions and some other issues I'd like to talk about in our next program, if you'd like to join me.
yes.
Okay, we will be back again next week.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Donna podcast here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Dr. Donna podcast is copyright 2023 Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.